you had, it seems, a fun time as well, but then why did you end up leaving the WWF when your contract was up?
Oh, I was stupid. I don't. I think at the time there was just a lot going on, and I had this vision that I was going. I remember thinking, okay, so do I want to be known as a wrestling announcer for my rest of my career, or and thinking I was going to go and do all these other things, which I got a lot of other opportunities. But I look back and say, I should have stuck around there. I don't know if they would have had me, but because things change. But I don't think, looking back, that I was really ready to leave. And I think it kind of came down to things. I wanted to do other stuff because I really loved doing, things where, more vignettes, and I wanted to be at more shows doing, instead of just the event center. And I kind of was throwing that out there, and like Vince is kind of like, well, no, we really need you in the event center, because that's what you do, and it helps us. And so my contract was coming up, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm leaving. And it was kind of like Vince was convinced I was going down to WCW, and I'm like, no, if I'm going to work in this industry, it's for you. And I don't think he believed me.
Probably
But
not.
no, I don't think he did. And so when I did leave, and then I ended up working at WWOR in New York, and eventually became an anchor there. I remember the first night I was on the air, the next day he sent me a cable, a telegram, and it's congratulating me, because I think, first of all, it's just kind of like, oh, I believe you that you didn't go down.
Well, me and
But
Gene and Bobby went there. That's probably
yeah,
why.
yeah. But I think the other thing was that, and I think kind of you mentioned it at the top when we started talking about that legitimacy. He always wants that legitimacy, that this is real.
Yeah.
And for me to make that transition from being, the wrestling announcer guy to being the news guy, meant a lot to him. To see that, yeah, we're legit. These people, can go on and do other things as well. So, although I remember Phil Mushnick, who was a sports writer, never ever let me, whenever they would write about me in the paper, it was always former wrestling announcer. He's always trying to, because he hated Vince.
Oh yeah, that
I don't know if you
guy
remember
Phil.
that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
endless
And so,
articles.
yeah, so like, what's Salzburg used to do stuff. He was the sports guy at the time at the station. Whenever he would do something, once in a while he'd do something on wrestling, and he would write the next day that, well, obviously Sean Mooney still has influence in the, I'm like, I have nothing to do with that. Like, what? Not that I had anything to it. And that was another thing. They always used to say he's ashamed of his announcing career, because, well, the station put out, stuff that I was taking, but they said I worked for Titan Sports or something.
Yeah.
But I was never, anybody ever asked me. I was like, no, I'm very proud of that. Look at what I did. Look what I did. I went from there, and I'm doing this, whatever. So, and I think like Bobby even put it in his book one time. And I always wanted to ask, like, why, like, I was ashamed of, that I went on and I wouldn't tell anybody that I worked for. That was a total not true. Like, other people that I went to work for didn't maybe necessarily want to put that out there, but it wasn't me. And like,
Right.
anybody asked me, I would, and another thing is, I never ever, there was a lot of times after that people wanted me to trash Vince, because that was when all that stuff was going on. I'm like, why would I do that? This guy gave me a career and was always good to me. It was love hate a lot of times. We certainly had our moments, but overall, I loved him. I loved the fact that why me? That he gave me a chance. And like I said, I was awful. And I remember one time, it was early on, and we were at one of the arenas, and I had to do a promo about a cage match. They put me down there, and I wasn't. It was pretty much, he said, say this, and this. Like when Vince told you that, you're like, this was early, and I'm in the ring, and I couldn't get that thing. And Vince all of a sudden, and the director at times says, hold up, Vince is coming down. I'm like, oh, like, really? I was like, oh crap, he's going to tell me to go get my bag or something. And he came down and he said, hey, we got this, pal. Just do this, and whatever. And then, you have that at the great part at the end, and I like nailed it. And I never forgot that. Like, Vince is, I don't have to tell you, but Vince is incredibly intimidating. And to think that he was like marching down the ring, down to the ring, and I see him coming down, and I'm like, oh, what the? I didn't had no idea what was going to happen, and he helped me, and from that point on, I've nailed stuff. It was just gave me that confidence that he still believed in me in that, and that was early on. After that, and you look at those interviews, and we had one shot. And I tried to think back. Were there times if I ever like really screwed up something, and I can't? I honestly probably happened, but I don't remember it because, you know, you had to. It was like one of those things you had to nail this.
Yep.
You'd have 4 or 5 of these guys in there, and you got to make sure you get everybody what they're supposed to say and whatever. And a lot of them were live, so it was a great training ground, and Vince was always good to me.